Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so some of the students cannot download the file from the website for the facial blend shape.
Yes, I heard that already today, and let me show you how you would do that. So if we go to, let's see, go to YouTube. So you don't absolutely have to download these files, but I mean, you can just watch the videos. But let's see, and CGI, here we go. I first found this channel when I started rigging in utility nodes, and I saw that this guy had in one of those 3D magazines, had doing facial rigs using utility nodes, which I hadn't done before, but I've been doing ever since. This is also a great channel for rigging. I haven't been through them all because I kind of do my own sort of rigs. But anyway, so if you go here to videos, let's do and CGI. Okay, where's the search button? There it is. Facial. Okay, so let's click on this. And stop it. No thanks. Show more. Okay, so if you go to Gumroad, you have to have a Gumroad account. You can find them there. Did you guys all see that? Okay, so it's Ant CGI Gumroad. You do have to have a Gumroad account, but you know, there's a lot of cool stuff on Gumroad. Okay. I guess since we're here, I can start with this. So essentially, we have different controllers like I showed last week. And most of these are connected to joints. Some of them are connected to blend shapes. You can see the blend shapes here. And I asked you guys to look at this video because he shows a trick on doing the blend shapes with the component editor for doing like a half of a face. So I'm expecting you guys all to look at this. So if you haven't watched it, make sure that you do. And if anybody out in Zoom land has a question, please, by all means, type it or shout it out. Same thing with those who are live. So I'm going to start out the class by, so I was asked in class a couple of weeks ago before GDC if we could, instead of doing, so the initial plan, what I've done in this class in the past is I show you the facial rigging process. Yeah, I will. So I'm going to try to make some videos myself, but it wouldn't hurt. Kate's asking if there's other videos in the playlist. You should, honestly, you ought to watch them all. I'm going to see if I can make some for this class also, but after this class, I'm going to show you guys some other videos or some other examples of blend shapes. And then from this, you should be able to kind of move forward. Okay. Not just blend shapes, but also the controls. But by all means, if you want to watch the full playlist, there's great stuff. I've subscribed and joined Ant CGI's channel, mainly because, I already do rigging, but I haven't made a facial rigging video with the blend shapes like he has on the first one yet. He's also got some good scripting stuff on his site, which is why I joined it for a small monthly fee. And I'm going to get to that later in this broadcast. Okay, so I need to download a bunch of stuff. I'm going to start with this one. Okay, so I'm going to download this. Okay, I'm going to download this. Oh, it's going to download. Download this. This one's going to take a little while. I'll open that up later. And I need to download this one. Okay, so bear with me. Fire up Maya here. I appreciate all your patience. Zoom is a little wacky. Or maybe I'm a little wacky and Zoom's just fine. I don't know. Maya's certainly a little wacky. Yes, Max is asking if the recording of this Zoom will be put up on Canvas. It will, but I'm recording it here to this machine locally. And so I'm going to upload it before I leave, and I will most likely edit it before I put it on Canvas. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, in previous classes, I had students build a facial rig. We did it in class. And then I would assign you guys all to go out and search a model and then rig it for your final. That'd be starting, like we'd start doing it this week or in the beginning of April. But due to past couple of years in a row, I'm sure COVID had something to do with it. I found students just downloading rigs from the internet, and there's absolutely no way you'd be able to do that without me finding out, but some people did it anyway. And then someone in class mentioned, well, why do you want us to rig the face twice? And well, A, because practice is good, B, because assignments are good. But it got me thinking, well, that gecko, I actually built it for a previous rigging class 5 or 6 years ago. So I just decided, well, why don't we all just work with the gecko? And that way we can start doing the face on the gecko, and then that face work won't be lost, because then I'm going to have you finish rigging the gecko. Okay. So we're all going to rig the gecko, but I'm going to throw a few surprises at you. I'll get to that briefly. And then that also got me thinking, well, I could take this a step further, because if you're rigging characters, there's a little bit more information that might be helpful to you. And so I'm going to show that in this example here. documents, and downloads. Okay, Pyro BS. Okay, so this file that I'm loading here, this file, can you guys all see the Maya screen? Okay. So this file is a working file for the last game that I worked on in industry. And that was a launch title for the Xbox 360. It was Amped 3. It was a snowboarding game. Okay. And this particular game, we had sort of like create a character feature to it. Now, I don't have all the textures or anything. I've just got this working file. And so we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 base characters. And we would enable, like, create a character features that would, the engine would take them. You could select, you could kind of build your character from different body types, and you could swap out different tops, bottoms, heads, hairstyles, and then play with body types. And then that would build the character for you so that you could run it in real time. And so you guys have all seen character creation types of games, I'm sure. And so this is an example of how that system worked. And so this is like a base female character. And as you can probably tell, I've got the shape editor open here, which is Windows, animation editor, shape editor. Well, actually, this is the, that's a different window. Okay. But let's go here to the shape editor. Okay. So here's kind of how the whole system works and how it's going to work on virtually every one of these create a character systems that you would see. So I did this back in, I don't know, 2004. Prior to going to teach an industry. And the biggest complaint I have about this is I left. So you guys all know what alpha is in a game, right? Who can tell me? Yeah. No. That's textures in the game, but you're right. But in game production, yeah. So you've got an alpha. Alpha is feature complete. And then you've got beta, and then you ship it. So this game was shipped, for the holidays in 2005. And I spent nearly 2 years on this game. And I left the game while we were in alpha. I went to teach at the University of Central Florida. Unique teaching opportunity came up, and so the guy that was running the company decided that anybody who left before the game was done would not get their name in the credits, which was pretty. I thought that was pretty ornery, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, I've got all the models for the game. I built most of the models for the game. But anyway, here's our base character. So we had 3 different body types from the different characters. So for instance, this is kind of like the athletic type. We had a pear-shaped body. So if I turn the slider, oh, I guess that's not working. I've got to go back to the other editor that I had open there. Good grief, bear with me. It's an older file from 2004. or 5. I'm just going to come back here. Okay, so let's go to pear shaped here. You can see the neck changed. And then I'm going to go to pear here. Let's go to pear shape here. And this is not working. This is dry. Okay, I'm going to have to reload the file. Worked just fine at home this morning. Oh, come on, Maya. File, open scene. Let's try that. Okay, let's try this one more time. All right, well, I know the booty worked, so I'm going to try that. Oh, come on. There we go.
Does it only affect certain parts of the body? That's why some of them don't work as well as others?
Yeah, so this is an extreme pose, right? So, you know, you could make some of these smaller. The whole trick is that, you know, they would all move together. The most noticeable would be the like the legs and the shirt. Now, let me reset all these. So I just wanted to show you that, you know, this had been, you know, I'd done this before in a game engine. So this is the skinny blend shape. And so like in the engine, you know, all these blend shapes would be loaded up and, you know, you could adjust a slider to go from like a pear shaped to a booty shape to a skinny shape. And then there were, you know, maybe 6 or 7 different characters between male and female. Okay. And so, you know, blend shapes are used quite heavily in industry. It's kind of what I'm trying to show here. The key is that each particular, so if we zoom in here, like on the pants, so each particular blend shape, you know, they all have to work in unison so that it spits out a character that, you know, everything is connected. I also had to build geometry that would work for, you know, that you could morph into all these, you know, combinations of all these different ones. So this pair works. Okay, so this would be the pear shape. You know, or you could do combos, right? So anyway, that's how like a character creator system works. And you can see that there are different places here where, you know, they're not quite lining up. So you have to do it across the board. And again, it was for tops and bottoms. I need to turn this one off. Let's turn this one on. Tops, bottoms, heads. Okay, so you can see how those would line up. And so you'd have to do this across the board. Now, for each different outfit, like a shirt, tank top, coat, whatever, the same thing. We'd have to, you know, build each different top In this case, this character is wearing shorts, there'd be pants, there'd be shorts, whatever. And they would all have to line up with the same amount of vertices. And then you could swap not only the like pants or the top, you could also swap out the textures to get a robust kind of create a character sort of a thing here. Okay, so I was thinking about showing this to you guys since decided to pivot a little bit and just work on the same character. So I'm going to have you guys do this. You guys are each going to make some of these variations for the gecko. We're each going to have you each rig it, but I'm also going to have you guys work on, a series of blend shapes for the gecko, and I'm going to have you, choose your own. But so this is just one example. Now I want to show you another. Okay. Let's do this. Okay, so Kosanovich, let's take this, cut. I'm going to put it here. Paste. So at GDC this year, I attended a few good animation and tech art classes, and then on the last day that I was there for for classes and that, excuse me, I was looking at the presenters, and it just turned out that a former student of mine at UCF was actually presenting. And so it tied in perfectly with what I'm talking about today. So, at GDC, there was a talk here on, it was a create a character, or it was a character pipeline. That was the name of the talk. This is a former student, Stephen. And I went up and said hi to him. And when he started the talk, he even gave me a shout out. That was kind of cool. Okay, so I was kind of sitting at an angle. I didn't have time to really, fix these. So Stephen is a character lead at Iron Galaxy Studios. And so let me go here. So the idea was to have a sort of a create a character for their game, which is, can anybody recognize this game? I think it's Rumbleverse. Is that right?
I don't recognize it at all.
Anybody played this game? I think it's called Rumbleverse. Just look really cool. Okay.
I haven't played it, but I have heard of it, and it's a crying shame that it did not last very long.
What do you mean did not last?
It's dead. The servers are down. Not enough people were playing it. It was a battle royale a la like Fortnite, but instead of using like weapons and guns, it was you were a superhero basically. And unfortunately, as original as that idea was, it didn't quite catch on.
Oh, that's a bummer. I was gonna play it later this week. They refunded every purchase. Yeah, he didn't mention that the game was shut down. That is a crying shame. I know a lot of people that worked on it. Okay, so anyway, that's what it was all about. So it started just like any other game. You've got your character development first. The idea here being you want silhouettes that are very strong. You also want silhouettes in the various, tops and bottoms that will all, kind of work with the same skeleton, same weapons and whatnot. So that's kind of the idea behind the development. And so here's even some more. So this is very similar to what I'd done in my character design class. You start with thumbnails, you kind of start rough, coming up with characters, and then you start to get into, some more of the early stages. Excuse me. And so then, yeah, this is just like a screenshot of it in action. It's a little blurred because I guess the screen was moving, and I guess I didn't have my phone stabilized. But you guys have all seen games like this where you can select a top, and so each top or bottom, they all have the same blend shapes apply. Okay. Now, for this particular game, what they did is, let me see if I can find, that's this one here. So they had tech artists who, a tech artist will often be in rigging if they're, if they're like a technical animator. They had a tech artist that built a tool, actually a former student of mine as well. He actually spoke in this class a year ago. He said he would be willing to do it again, so maybe I'll see if I can get him to show up during this class. So what they did is they kind of just decided, the different regions of the body and overlaps. And then, and I get this question a lot. So maybe if you build like a character body, and then if you put a jacket on it, I'm often asked, well, do you hide the skin? And the answer is yes. So, and so for each of these parts here, you can see that there's a different material on the character. Some of these are for, the separation, like I showed you on the snowboarding character. Like right here would be the separations. Then here on the neck, and then, at the feet, that coincide here. So each one of these body parts, again, for whatever the piece is, you would separate it, and you would hide the skin underneath or delete it essentially. Okay. It might be easier just to kind of just jump through these. Okay. So what they would do in the production, a concept, you'd build a high poly and then a low poly, and then you've got a texture, and then this goes into the game. Now, there's one thing that I'd like to point out here that I say in a lot of my classes, but does anybody notice anything about this that seems off about the topology for this particular character?
Something weird's going on with the top of the head.
Yeah, there's something weird with the top of the head, and I'm sure that had to do with making the blend shapes work correctly. Now, somebody said tris mixed into quads. That's exactly what I was getting at. Now, you guys have all taken classes here where I'm pretty sure that it's been drilled into your head that every model must be all quads. Is that a true statement?
More or less.
Okay. Well, I'm here to tell you that you want to stay quads as much as you can, but the fact that every single character must be all quads is hogwash. And here's the proof right here. And it's not just because these guys were my students, they're professional studio and they've been making great games. And it's just that notion of everything has to be all quads. If somebody tells you that, they're wrong. Okay. Now, it's a good idea to stay in quads as much as you can. I certainly preach that. But the main reason for, when this, real dedicated, attention to quads. The whole reason that started is when ZBrush came out around 2004. Back then, we'd make a polygonal model, would take it into ZBrush, would subdivide it, and then start making the detail. Well, if you take a model into ZBrush and you subdivide it, yeah, the quads would make some nasty artifacts. That's the only reason that I can think of. There's a couple others, but nowadays we build in ZBrush first and then we retopologize. And when it goes into a game engine, it turns into all tries anyway. So I just wanted to point out this notion of, everything must be quads, because it's not always true. I need to go backwards. And you can see that here, like, for instance, on the pants here, this is an area that's not going to deform in a way where these triangles would make a big difference. Sometimes in deformation, they do. This topology here was there so that, if it was a female character, you'd have a little bit of leeway with the topology, for different blend shapes. Yeah, I mean, you do want to stay quads as much as you can, but you don't always have to. The reason I point that out is because I see so many students that would take these two edges and just take them up all the way through the model. And it's just a waste of polygons. And it also makes the model a lot harder to work with. Okay. I'm just going to go through all these slides. Okay, so early development. Yeah, it was like a Lucha Libre. God, that makes me sad to know that game was canceled. Okay, so in their early development, they came up with 3 different body types, a male and a female, real thin, real excessively muscular, little, I don't know, I guess I'd say pear-shaped. It turns out those are pretty much the same ones that I had and the ones that I worked on with the snowboarder. Okay. Everything was well documented. Okay. Like I said, they built a tool that would take all these assets and it would kind of apply the blend shapes to them to kind of to speed things up. Very talented tech artist. The one that I showed you guys, I built it all from scratch. Every one of the blend shapes. Now, one thing that Stephen pointed out here was well documented for the team. Also, not just for that particular game team, but the entire studio. Okay. And he also said that it was well documented for their partners. Any idea what they mean by partners? They're outsourcers. Yeah, and so why do you think I'm mentioning this? There is a reason.
You go to work so that, like, in case you have something.
Little louder, please.
That was like, so it's like if there's something they need to be done that you can't do in studio, and you have to like outsource it to someone else, have to make sure they can actually work with it. It's not just a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you guys might imagine, if you're a character modeler, I mean, I was spoiled back when I was a character modeler back in 2004 and prior to that. I was able to control every aspect of the characters, and as long as I adhere to the concepts and design. But I got to make just about every single piece, or at least up until alpha, right? All 3 different body types, every piece of clothing, whether it was a tank top or shorts or pants or long sleeves. They don't do that now. A lot of that stuff is farmed out to our outsourcers. every character I worked on, I got to start from scratch. That's probably not going to happen very often in the future, because there's so many assets that need to be built that, there will be outsourcing. And a lot of times, if you get into a job like this in character production, and I'm talking about modeling and, texturing and rigging and animation, stuff is going to be farmed out. It's going to be supervised and managed. What else do you think is going to be farmed out in the near future? It's real big in the news nowadays.
Oh, well, like AI, maybe?
A little louder?
Maybe like coding with like ChatGPT?
Well, yeah, definitely coding. This is where coding helps. Any artist that can code stuff and speed up processes that are done more than a few times, especially a technical artist and an artist. It's going to make you valuable. But you know what? This stuff is soon going to be the domain of AI, right? Or a tool. Okay. It's just good to keep this stuff in mind. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you into thinking that there's not going to be jobs. There will be jobs, because in every game we see, there's more and more content. The characters are more robust. There's much more of a choice. The environments are much more robust, much more variety. But, outsourcing and AI and tools, this is something you guys are all going to have to, know how to work with. Maybe not code the AI, but, maybe tools and some scripting. So, he mentioned that here. So I wanted you guys to see the slide and talk about it. Okay. We looked at those. He also spoke an awful lot about design considerations. I know he said that they had several different layers of design. So this would be like skin tight. This would be a secondary layer where there might be a few fairly tight appendages or accessories. And then a third layer of design would be something like this, where you've got armor, skirts, something where it might break the silhouette, okay? Going the wrong way. And so you have to make all these, design decisions, is it cool enough to limit to customization? Because, everything in the end has to fit. All these pieces have to fit together. Does it communicate compatibility limitations? Can the accessory live without it? Is there an alternate design? You have to consider all these different designs. He also had a couple of slides on bridging the gap, where you could switch from one character to this, like into something that's more like a mascot. So that these would be like maybe more like one-off pieces. That's kind of stuff you'd have to do manually. Also, yeah, just different pieces, would require a lot more human intervention. Also, here you can see this one layer, it's actually the initial skin. And so you'd want to make sure that, these new pieces would kind of line up with the skin, kind of fit. So there's just a lot of considerations that go into this. And I also thought this talk was cool because he said animators, modelers, technical artists, designers, producers, everybody was involved in these situations. Animators and riggers, because they know how the body moves. You got to make sure that the animations are going to propagate across all the different solutions here. Now, here's something else so this was cool. I hadn't thought of this, when I did the character creators that I worked on. But because you have these morphs that are going to all these extremes, what they did is they kind of combined all of the morphs mathematically, and they came up with an average mesh. And so this average mesh is going to fit both the thin and the thick pieces with the least amount of distortion, like to the UVs. And so it's like the path of least resistance. So these are just kind of the things that go into these sorts of, pipelines. So this was a rigging class, but you guys do need to, understand, like if you're a technical artist / rigger, who are your customers? Who would they be?
Game studios, I guess.
A little louder?
Game studios, or I guess the animators.
Well, yeah, the animators, the design itself. So when you're making rigs, I mean, you want to make sure that the animators are able to, animate at their highest efficiency, really. So when you're doing rigging, it's not just, you're not just doing this in a silo. You're working with modelers, you're working with animators, producers, tech artists, designers. It's very much a team effort. Now, so in the green here, these little green pieces, this is where they had a division. Okay. Just like in the character that I showed you guys initially that I worked on. Now they had a tool that they would run everything through to kind of automate things. But in the end, it still required. So for instance, here's the average shape they put on the coat, and the design elements of the coat would be, like the shoulders here with the points there, the bottom of the coat kind of sticking out like that, a little bit of a swoop down, the coat ends a little thicker than the wrist. So they would put it through the tool. It would give an approximation, but you can tell that this does not look like that. So they would have to have artists come in and tweak these. So tools and AI are not going to replace artists, but you're going to have to work with it, right? Yeah, I just, it was just, this talk was really timely because I was going to show you this create a character thing anyway. And then, wow, okay, well, that's going to work for Monday, so I'm going to take pictures. Yeah, so I think these are the most salient points. I'm sure if this is going to be on, I think this is being recorded and it's going to be on the GDC Vault maybe in a few weeks. But it ties into what we're doing. Okay. So does anybody have any questions on this stuff? Any concerns? Because I'm going to be asking you to do this. Yeah.
So like looking at the modeling each individual piece, and just or essentially kind of blend shape it like we did with the smile, just with different meshes.
Yeah. So essentially what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you create your own divisions. I'm going to have you create maybe at least 2 or 3 different divisions where you're separating, like certainly a top and a bottom. And then I'm going to have you do probably 3 different shapes. Now, this is not a modeling class, but doing the blend shapes, it is going to require some modeling skill. So in order to swap out a top, you can make like a shirt by just selecting the faces on like the gecko's body, torso, and just extruding the faces out to make a shirt, right? Same thing with pants. So I haven't come up with the exact number yet, but I'm gonna have you each make some divisions, like, you know, shirt and pants. I'm gonna have you make a couple more divisions of your choice, and I'll have you make like at least one alternate. And again, you know, I don't want a crazy modeling happening here. This is more about making the blend shapes and the rigging. Yeah.
How does that work if like, so if we already did work on our blend shapes for the face and you have to add more topology, like extruding from the body, can you like still use the facial blend shapes? And
Yeah.
it'll be unaffected by the body?
I'm going to show you that.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Yeah. So that was something to thank, and great question. So you're awake and you're thinking ahead. That's what I wanted to know. Any other concerns about what I'm asking you guys to do? Same thing with those who are watching online. Okay. All right, so I've been downloading something in the background, and so let me see if that is downloaded by now. Art of rigging, yes. Okay, so I'm going to extract files. Let me give this just a minute to extract. It's 2 gigabytes worth of data. Not sure how that was 2 gigabytes. Does anybody remember? It would have been a CD, not a DVD. A CD only held about 600 megabytes. No, a DVD would hold a lot more. So that while this is extracting, I'm going to jump back into a browser here. And I'm going to go to Amazon. Now I'm going to show you where I got a lot of my information from when I was learning how to rig a face. Rig faces. All right, Amazon. Okay, so stop staring, facial modeling and animation done right. Okay, so this book is still in circulation. I bought this book years ago. Some of the techniques I've shown you are in this book. You can get it on Kindle or paperback. I guess the paperback probably isn't in circulation. There's also a third version. Let's see. This is the version that I bought. Or no, I think I got the third one too. Anyway, the Stop Staring. This is a really good book, not only for modeling and rigging and animation. Well, not only for modeling and rigging, but also for animation. It's a fantastic book. And it's still, even though it was put out in 2007, it is still very timely. Here's another one, The Art of Rigging. Okay, that's this one here. Wow, I guess you can still get it used. This book is not in print. I bought this book in 2005. And this book is still legit. The only thing about it is it's in Mill, not Python. I'm about to show you this book. I bought it both. I bought the physical volume, and then I've also bought the online version. Unfortunately, the digital version is no longer in circulation. They used to charge like $10 for it. I paid $80 for the book in 2005. It was worth every penny. But what I'm going to do is show you an example from this for the rest of class. They cover faces in here. There's a couple other books. Let's see. Some that are more recent. Maya rigging. Okay. I spent some time with Cheryl at GDC. She inherited some of my responsibilities at UCF when I left to come here to Utah. She's written a book on rigging. She's written a couple books on rigging. This is available. You can buy this now. I think this is a little more of an introduction. Like, I haven't read it. I asked her about utility nodes and how much she does there. I think she said that she goes into them a little bit, but not as much as we've done in this class. I'm sure she covers facial animation in this book. There's another one that I've bought that I've also purchased. I know this one is pretty good. I haven't read it all. This is the most recent one that I bought, came out in 2015. This is a book on rigging for games, and you guessed it, using Python. So, and the Python that he's showing in this book, it's very approachable, right? It's not like crazy for you know, you don't have to be a software engineer to understand this. Now, why am I showing you these books? Well, because there's a whole lot out there, a lot more than I have time for one class. I wish I could have 2 or 3 classes in rigging. But, you know, it's just, yeah, there's a lot of great books out there in rigging. I've started to read this one, bought the Kindle edition. So far it looks good. The Python is pretty approachable. Let's see if we look inside. Let's see if they have stuff on facial rigging. So introduction, blah, blah, blah. Who's this book intended for? Unity game engine. It is not a comprehensive manual. Okay, it's meant for Maya, game engines. It's not a programming book. I think this guy must have written the book to accompany a short that he was making. You see some of the, some of the conceptual stuff that we spoke about. Then we get into the production cycle here, pre-production, the script, game design, concept art. Okay, it's only showing a preview. I wanted to look at the table of contents, but I'm pretty sure it'll cover facial rigging. These are other options to look at. Okay, so let's put that away. Any questions from anybody in Zoom land or in class? Okay. I'm not going to go, well, let me just open this up here. So let me put this on my desktop. The art of rigging. Okay, so start here. I have read. I agree. Now, this is a really cool book, and this is just the stuff that comes on the CD. This is where we used to do utility nodes. It was in the Hypershade. Utility nodes were a little clunky back then. Show spline IK, also dynamic joints. I'm going to get into some of this stuff later in the class. Chapter 4, it's all about the face. Okay. And so that's what I'm going to show you here is this particular model with the face. Okay. So let's go to the videos, chapter 4. And I'm going to open with VLC.
Hello and welcome to exercise 4.2. In this video, I'm going to show you how to place joints in a creature's head. And then using Zakopa here, we'll actually weight the jaw joint, which is really one of the most important parts of a facial rig is having good weighting throughout the jaw region. So I'll show you all the problems associated with that. And I'll also show you a neat little trick that I have for placing joints in eyeballs. So I have here the finished scene file. And if I just grab his jaw joint and rotate that around, you can see the sort of effect we're getting, a nice little subtle motion in behind the ears. Okay,
I'm just going to speed this up a little bit.
So that you can eyeball, but also to control the top of this guy. Maybe your eye. You're both trying to up through the elements that we want to be bound.
Okay, so essentially you've got a head joint here. Right here, you've got the pivot point for a jaw. You can bring this down, and so you'd weight the jaw to this bone. So I'm going to want you to use both blend shapes and joints when we're working on the face. I definitely want you to use joints on the jaw. And if you want to use them on the eyelids, I'm going to let you do that too. But I also want you to also have some blend shapes. But anyway, so you can see that there's a joint here for the jaw. There's a joint here in the center of the eyeballs. That way the eyeballs can rotate about the center. And this is the weighting process. I know some of you had some concerns about the gecko. I figured you would, because reptiles, when their mouths close, they're like sealed shut. I figured some of you would have issues with that. And I will answer any questions once we get to it about weighting the gecko's joint. Okay, so there's that first one. Let's look at this one. Open with VLC.
Hello and welcome to the third video in chapter 4. And in this video, I'm going to talk about interfaces. So I'm going to show you the interface that we've built here for Zakopa. And I'll talk a little bit about the script that we use to connect it up. And we'll go through all the features of the interface. And then at the end, I'll also talk about how the interface was built. And I'll show you some techniques that maybe you weren't aware of that you can use to build some really neat looking interfaces that are curve based and react a little bit more than some interfaces that you may be used to. So to start out with, let's take a look at the finished product here, and we'll go through all of the bits of the interface so you can take a look at how it all works and maybe get some cool ideas for your own stuff. So starting out with, let's take a look at the jaw. If I grab the little white circle there in the on the jaw curve, we can translate that around to open and close the mouth. So there you can see that motion right there. And let me just talk about some of the corrective shapes that's going on here. You may recall from the last video where we did some smooth skinning on the jaw that when you open up the jaw with default smooth skinning, what you're going to get is a really wide looking mouth. And it sort of you get a pretty nasty loss of volume from the default smooth skinning results, and there's no real way of preventing that from smooth skinning alone unless you have to use a corrective shape. And in this case here, you can see that the corrective shape that I have in the mouth region here actually pulls the corners of the mouth inwards, so that as we open up the jaw, the mouth sort of goes into this O shape instead of staying really wide. So you can see there, even in the fully closed state here, how wide the mouth is. And then as we open it up, the corners of the mouth here and here get pulled inwards. Okay, so that's what the corrective shape is doing. And actually, if I turn off the corrective shape, so let's just grab the mesh here, and I'll go into the blend shape node, and let's find the corrective shape here. I think it's called open mouth, the mouth open. So let's just break that connection there, and I'll show you what it looks like without the corrective shape. So this is with the volume preservation, and if we set that shape down to 0, you can see what it looks like without. And it looks kind of silly because his mouth is way too wide, and it looks like he's really tugging on the sides of his mouth to try and keep his mouth that wide. So it's a pretty unnatural looking pose, and it looks much better when you blend in a little corrective shape like that. I'm just going to Control Z back before I wrote that. Let's take a look at the corrective shape going on in the chin.
So a lot of why I showed you guys utility nodes is because you can pipe a lot of things into one node and then out to others. So often when you're making a shape, you might need to make like a corrective shape. And so with a blend shape, and so that's kind of what was happening here. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so this is for like a brow. Okay, and so this is a NURB circle right here, right here, right here. And then this is the brow itself. So I think the way this is set up, you can grab the brow and move it. It's going to contain all these as children, and you can move these individually. Now, if this is a NURBS curve, and if you're moving some of the inside pieces, and if, well, you know, tell you what, I'm going to wait and show you that. I'm going to load the file. Well, actually, I can show you right here. So the idea here is, you know, if you kind of, if you move up this controller, this shape is going to conform to it. How do you suppose you're getting a NURBS curve to conform to the UI? Any ideas?
Like a point constraint.
Close. It's not something that you don't know. So you can weight NURBS curves just like geometry. You're essentially just skin weighting the curve to a joint. I thought I'd show you that. Remember those expressions that I was showing you guys earlier last time? They're here. I'll talk about that just a minute. And let's look at this last one here. Open with VLC player.
Hello and welcome to exercise 4.3. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to rig up some soft eyes, and which is the right and left. So it's really important when you're weighting these joints that you add nice soft influence up into the eye region. Okay, so that's what we get there. And the bottom lid works the same way. Okay, so we can use these to control the pose that the eyelids are in. And we're going to expression. And let's start by driving the those eye joints. So we'll say the left eye joint dot rotate X, and that's rotation in making it look up and down, is equal to the I believe it's called the eye look at control. Let's just try that out. Eye look at control dot translate Y. And we need to multiply this by, I think 30 should work, or 30 degrees, so that the eyeball rotates in 30 degrees, because the translate Y on this controller object goes from -1 to +1. So let's hit create on that. I'm just gonna move this off to the side and we'll see how that works. So I've grabbed the controller object here, the eye look at control. And if we move this up and down, okay, there, zoom in on this eye. Okay, it looks like it's moving in the wrong direction. So up is down, down is up. So let's just bring this expression back over here and type in a negative value there. So that should flip it for us. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it below, and we'll do the same thing for the right eye. Hit edit. Okay. So now let's look at the behavior that we get there. Moving the controller up and down makes the eyes look up and down, and moving it side to side makes the eyes not look side to side yet. So we
Okay. Who's got a concern about expressions? Any concerns about them?
The eyes for the gecko
What?
too? Are we gonna have to like rig up the eyes for gecko too like that?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to allow you guys to hook it up however you want, but I'm going to have you create some expressions. And I'm going to show you an example of those again. Okay, so there's an expression editor. It's a little wonky, but you can also make the expressions in a script. And we did that the other day, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so there's just a little bit of those videos, and I'm just going to load into Maya that example file. So let's come back here to Maya, new scene, and I'm not going to go the whole class time. I'm going to end a little bit early because I know there's going to be a lot to take in. Anybody out in Zoomville have a question?
Everything's pretty straightforward so far.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Let's see. I need to go to desktop, art of rigging. I'm going to go to scene files, face. I'm going to go to Zukafa. Okay, so I'm going to go to Zukafa 1, version 1, open. Don't save. Okay. All right. Okay, funny thing about older files in Maya. If you ever run into an old Maya file and you open it up and you can't see it, here's how you fix it. I'm just going to take this. I'm going to select everything. Actually, let's see. I'm going to do this first. So I'm going to go to the script editor, make a new window, and I'm going to say select -all. I think that's the right. Okay, and I'm going to run that. Okay, so everything is selected in the scene. And then I'm going to say File, Export Selection. And I'm just going to export it as a Maya. I'm going to export it as a Maya ASCII. Okay, export to selection. I'm going to come back here to where I was. Okay, so I'm going to export it as an ASCII. And I'll just call this new export selection. Okay, whatever. Hopefully it'll work. New scene. Don't save. Open scene, all files. Oh, it wouldn't export the ASCII. Punk. I guess I'll have to export it as an MB. Mine's gotten weird like that. Open scene. Okay, let's run this again. Select all, file, export selection. As a binary, export selection, I'll just call this version 2023. Wow. It's like 18 years old. Okay. All right. Now, if I say new scene, don't save. Hopefully, if I open it up after having exported it, we'll be able to see it. And there you go. Okay, so if you ever encounter an older rig, you load it up and you can't see it, just select all, export it as an MB, my binary, and then if you load it up, you'll be able to see it. Okay, so we'll take a look at this. So here's the jaw. So the jaw is rotating not only an X up and down, but also side to side. Let's turn off this. We can grab the, okay, so that doesn't move. This will make like a snarl. It's restricted just to Y. Same thing with this. And do you guys remember how you restrict the axes there? That's right. Let's take a peek where we do that. So let's go to the attribute editor, or we can go or Control A. Okay, and so this is the shape. What we want to do is go to, there's a shape node and like the full, the transform node, which is the top of the hierarchy in everything. Come over here to the transform node and we go to transform attributes and we're going to go to limit information. We're going to go to translate. So this is limited, or this is grayed out or locked for everything, but it's limited in translate Y at 1 and -1. Okay. So if we were to come back here in the channel box, so this, and then all the channels were hidden except for translate Y. So you can see it goes between 1 and -1. And so every interface element was built at the origin in unit space. And then once you create a parent, or like a parent container, in this case, it might be this box, then you can scale that up and everything is still in its local, 1 to -1. Does that make sense? Straightforward? Straightforward to those online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is kind of fun. He's got a tongue control here. I guess we need to do this. Yeah. And why is it not working there? I guess you have to. Well, that's weird. Does it move up? Oh yeah, it goes up. So we can stick his tongue out and then you can kind of. You know, so I'm going to have you guys get a little creative in your rigs so that you don't all build the exact same rig. If we grab this piece, that's going to move the eyes up and down. So who can tell me what is happening here with this particular control? There's a couple things going on.
Are you moving the eyes?
Rotating the eyes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody, can anybody make a guess as to what this control is connected to? Yeah.
Is it connected to like the eyes and like the surrounding eyelids just a bit?
Yeah, so the eyes themselves and the eyelids. How do you think the eyes are controlled?
The joints.
With a joint. How do you think the eyelids moving with the eye is controlled?
Just skin like
A blend shape,
a bunch.
not the skin weighting too, but a blend shape also. Okay, and they need to be layered. All right, yeah.
Could you use like a node editor so that when you move it, it doesn't like it's telling to like rotate the eyes instead of like translating them side to side?
Yeah, so you want me to open the node editor?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that in a minute. It might take me a minute to find. But so essentially, if we were to go in and select, well, I'll see if I can find the joint. I'll open the node editor up and we'll look at the outgoing connections. But essentially, if you move it a certain amount, the rotation of the eyes is limited to like, maybe 150 degrees, maybe 120 degrees, both left and right and up and down. And so this could have been done by a set-driven key. So I've shown you guys both set-driven keys, and I've showed you guys a utility nodes where you map out a certain value, like 0 to 10 equals, remap that to, with a remap node, 0 to 10 might equal negative 80 to positive 80, right? That could be done in a set-driven key or the utility node editor. I think it's a little more efficient to use utility nodes. So everything we've done up until now, you guys know how to do. Would you agree with that? It's just, you have to kind of take what you've learned in making an arm and then apply it to the face. So I'm really not asking you guys to do anything you haven't already done, except with scripts, and I'll get to that. Scripts and expressions, I'll get to that in just a minute. Okay. So the eyes, they're limited here to one, like in the controller, but that's done with either a set-driven key or an expression, or utility node where it's, limiting the degrees of rotation with the eye. And then there's also a blend shape of both lids that's also being driven by this controller, because the lids are kind of matching the eye motion. So if we come down here to the brow, here's the middle of the brow. Here's one side of the brow. Here's like just the lid itself. Lower lid, also mapped to blend shapes. Or it might be matched to could be matched to a joint. We'll take a look at it. Here we've got like a puff, like if you're blowing air. And the same thing on the other side. And then here, this is for just the lips in general to make a smile. Go from smile to ooh. And this, I guess this is just the head control itself, just move it around. Okay. Let's take a look at just this one node. Oh, and then these are sort of like a sneer with the nostril. Now, the only thing that's really changed from 2005 to 2023 with rigging is the node editor got a lot better. I mean, there are other things, but for the most part, this is all the same stuff that we're doing, that we've been doing in this class. Rigging really hasn't changed all that much. Okay, anybody out in Zoom land? Any questions, any concerns? Is anybody terrified? Do you have any worries? What is he going to ask us to do? Well, let me hear it. Like, how do you feel about this at this point? Do you want to break? Do you want to scream? Do you want to go for a walk or something? Let me know. It's just been me talking and some of you commenting.
I always want to scream, but that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the class.
Okay, you do want to scream?
I feel like we could probably use a break to digest the information that's been given to us.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, and I'm not going to go till 4:20.
We'll go till 4:19.
Say again?
We'll go till 4:19.
I won't go to 4:19.
Okay.
I'm going to show you guys expressions after the break. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to show you how expressions work. And we already did that in the last class, but we're gonna take a look at them again. So take a 5-minute break if you need to use a restroom. If you need to go scream, any of that, be my guest. And I'm gonna be just fiddling around here for a minute. So I'm not gonna answer any questions until 5 minutes from now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start back up again. So the question was asked earlier in class. So what if you've already made your blend shapes? So I'm going to show you just a little bit of stuff you can do with blend shapes. So here's a sphere. All right. And so I just made imagine that's a head. This is a character's head. So there's left and right, and then the ball. Okay, so I'm going to select left, shift select right, then shift select ball. I'm going to go to rigging, deform. I'm going to create a blend shape, and I'll just call this blend. Great. Okay, and then if I come over here to Windows, Animation Editors, Shape Editor. And so then if I look at left, it's going to do the left. If I look at right, it's doing the right. But guess what? I'm going to take these and just move them. Now, in case this isn't straightforward, this is moved, and so is this, but these are moved at the object level, at the object transform level, not the vertice transform level, because the vertice transform level is a child of the object transform. So when we're transforming, when we're doing a morph target or a blend shape with vertices, they exist within the transform of the object, which is offset. Okay. If I were to freeze transforms so that this object was at 0, well, then the morph target would do, come all the way over here. Maybe I'll do that in just a sec. But here's something that I want to show you. So go to, let's go to the front view. And I'm going to turn the grid back on. Okay. So I can come here and I can select these top faces. So I'm going to go to face mode, and I need to take the B was for move with influence. Okay. So I'm going to select all these faces here. And I'm going to go to modeling, and I'm going to go to edit mesh. And I guess I could just detach, but I know this works. So I'm going to click on extract. Okay, so that extracts the ball into 2 pieces. So I'm going to select this part. What I'm going to do then is go under mesh, and I'm going to separate.
So you wanted the face mode to select half the ball?
Yeah, I need to go to face mode. Thank you. Let's go to mesh, separate. There we go. Okay, and so now let's, so now I've got 2 separate pieces here. And if I go to the shape editor, guess what? It still works. So the blend shapes you've done on your gecko so far are going to work. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out of this transformation. I'm going to pull that out of the transformation, and I'm going to delete this one. Hopefully it won't kill everything. Good. Okay, so here I'm just going to call this, let's just call it top. Let's call this bottom, bot. Okay. Now, let's go back to perspective view. And I can hide these for now. So I'm going to make a new layer, add selected, and then just turn them off. And actually, I'm going to turn the grid off. Okay. So if I were to come here and go to, let's go to modeling, mesh display. So I'm going to just soften the edges. Okay. And then if I come here, and if I do the same thing, G for last command. And then if I take the wireframe unshaded off, what's the problem now?
There's like an obvious.
There was an obvious cut. There's an obvious separation. But why do we have that separation?
Because you softened one of them but not the other?
Well, what I did is I softened the normals of each one. And so you see this line because the normals where they come together, they're separate. They're facing a different direction. In fact, the way to visualize that, if we go to display polygons, and if we go to face normals, this is what I'm talking about. The normals for these faces are pointing a little bit upwards, and the normals for these faces, they're pointing down. So you've got the normals of that cut. They're not unified. So let me actually select them both and turn the normals off. So display polygons, it's a toggle here. Turn those off. But here's how you fix it. So the way this works is, let's go back to, well, this should work. I'm just going to go to, well, I better go to a front window. Okay, so in the front window here, if I come and if I right click, and if I click on vertice, okay, so let's see. And then vertice there, Control Z, I think I did something goofy. Cute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift select this, then shift select that, and then right click and go to vertices. Okay, so I guess I have to then select this one, right click, go to vertices here also. Okay. So I selected the first one, went to vertices, and then I went to the other one and select vertices. So now the vertices are selected for both objects. And if I come in here and just select the ones in the center where I cut it, and then if I go to back to mesh display, what I'm going to do with the normals is I'm going to average them right at the cut. I'll click on average, and then if all went well, the vertices are average and you can't see the cut there. So the way this works, you've got all three morph targets. So if you got, say, 3 morph targets for the head and 3 morph targets for the body, you go to that separation line, you select all of the meshes, select right on that separation line and average the normals with all the pieces. And then they're going to look like they are together. Now, you're also going to have to rig these to a joint and weight them. So what do you suppose is going to happen there?
Probably one's probably gonna move, the other's not. gonna.
Say a little louder.
I guess like one of the two meshes will probably move, and like the seam will like kind of separate.
Well, here's the point. Not only did I average the normals before they were weighted, but the weighting for each one of those vertices is going to have to mirror the weight of the one it's touching. So it's going to be weighted. They're going to be weighted to, like maybe one or two joints, but where the verts all connect and touch, that weighting information has to be exactly the same. And so what's a good method to do that? Way back in our first assignment. Doing it by hand would be a pain, right?
But you go into the editor itself and just, oh wait, could you manually enter it?
Yeah, we go to the component editor.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Who said that? Did you say it?
You said it.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it?
because they get to go and like do. each
I'm
editor.
pretty sure, I'm gonna see if I can write a script to do this, but I'm pretty sure that I could do a Mel script that would query the weights of one vertice and copy it to another one. So that wouldn't be too hard.
So here's where scripting comes in handy, then.
What's that?
So this is where like scripting actually helps.
Yeah. And I will look into that script myself. So you guys don't have to do all the crazy work. Okay, so there's one other thing that I need to remind you about also, or not remind you about, I haven't told you about it yet. So if I were to, if I were to grab a joint, let's create a, well, we have to go to rigging. Skeleton, create joints. I'll create a joint. I'll just toss it there and I'm going to put it at 0. So it should be right in the center there. Q. Z. Q. Or yeah, so the joint is right there in the center. Okay. So I've already made blend shapes, right? And where's that blend shape editor? Oops, not this one. And again, the blend shapes are still intact. So if I select the joint and then both of these, and then if I do skin, bind skin, I'll just do that. Oh, let me do 2. Apply and close. Okay. So now if I select the joint, well, let me move the joint. Translate. Yeah, so this is all weighted to the joint. I'm just going to try this really quick and see what happens. This is probably not going to really show up unless it's in a hierarchy. But I'm going to try running the, try to run this now. Okay, so this is working fine. But generally in a hierarchy, this can get a little weird. So you have to set the hierarchy in order. The way to do that would be if I right click And if I go to inputs, I'm going to go to all inputs. And then what you can see is that there is a skin cluster and there's also a blend shape. I forget right offhand, I forget the order, but I think the order needs to go, I'm not sure. So this is how I'm changing it. With the middle mouse button, select blend shape, and I can move that up and put it to, well, maybe not. Middle mouse, okay, select it, middle mouse button. This is being weird. Select, okay. Okay, previous versions of Maya, you could move this up the hierarchy. Okay, I'm gonna have to get back to you on this because this has changed since the last time I've done it. But if you encounter weirdness, essentially what's going to happen is you have to change the order. They've changed something in Maya, so we'll have to figure out how you change that, how you change the order. But I will do some research on that on my own this week. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure why I couldn't change that, but like, again, I will check into it. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you, and what time is it? It's 3:30, so I'm going to end. I told you I'd end soon, so let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Also going to get rid of these. Okay, so right here, I'm going to open Zuka Face 2023 that I just showed you. Okay, now if I look at the UI, it's not connected. But I'm going to connect it really quick here. Okay. So I'm just going to select this, run it. Okay. And now it's all connected. So with this file here, this is all a script that does the rig for you. Okay. Anything we've done in class can be automated. For instance, if we were to create a set-driven key, you look at the history, you can see how to, you'll get the text of how to create a set-driven key, and then you can apply it to a script. If we make a utility node and plug some stuff in and out, it's going to show up in the history. So, but with this particular rig, well, like for instance, we did set-driven keys. There's a command for it. It's just a matter of, selecting stuff in the script. And we're also doing expressions. So in these expressions, and I'll be able to show this better in the next example I'll show. So for instance, there's a command named expression. You give it a name, -n stands for name. So there's an expression called smile frown expression. Okay, and then the -s stands for string. So we're using names or strings and values. So what's going on here is, let's try to get one that's not too nutty. Okay, so lower lip expression. So these are the blend shapes on, this is the name of the blend shape node that's on the model. And then the dot left lower lip up is the name of the actual blend. Okay, so this is like an attribute of that blend shape we created. In the case of the spheres, it would be left and right. Okay, and so that equals bottom left control. So that's one of the NURBS curves. That's a controller. Dot times translate y. So that's one of these up here. So essentially, the blend shape is going to move, and it equals the movement of the controller in that channel y. An expression just sets it up. The clamp value, it's restricting it to 0 from 0 to 1. We did that with utility nodes with a remap value node. Here we're using clamp. So why in the world would you write a script to rig a face?
You could use it again.
Because you could do it again. If you make a change, if you got to redo your blend shapes, boom, you run it again and it's done. What's another reason? That first one was a really, that's like the main reason. There's another reason. What if you have more than one character?
Use it on a different character.
Exactly. It might have a different name for the blend shapes. That might be called, instead of Zuka, maybe it's a Puka. You could do a search and replace on the script. Boom. Have everything named the same. This is why we're rigging with scripts. It's an auto rigging, and we're just using expressions to make connections. We've already talked about connections. We've done connections with direct connections in the connection editor. We've done connections with constraints. We've done connections with utility nodes. All these expressions are doing is just, they're making connections. Yeah.
What if you want to like add something to the facial expression UI?
What's that?
Like if you want to like add like an extra function onto like the facial expression UI, would you just have to redo this, or could you just like add?
Yeah. So say if this was a character in your pipeline, and throughout the production process, you're always making changes. You know, and here's a reason why. Once you take this into a game engine, sometimes things don't look exactly the way in the game engine as they do in Maya. So really, you want to be checking stuff in the game engine. Maybe you've got to push a blend shape a little further, or maybe you've pushed it too far, or maybe the rotation's a little off with the eye, right? You can just, so in the case of this file, the name of the file is the scene UI not connected. So you could add another UI element, and you could add that UI element to your script, and you could connect it up to a blend shape or a join, translate or rotate. Yeah. Yeah.
So how this system works, just to clarify, is you have this UI, and that could be something that you import into your scene that you already have.
Correct.
And then this script just has the names of those controllers hard coded into it, and you have to change it.
Correct.
Okay, but that's fairly easy to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's got the nodes hard coded, and it's got the names of the blend shapes hard coded.
Okay. So if we were using the fuse controls that you gave us,
Yeah.
can we use that?
I would want you to build your own UI, but the fuse controls, it is available.
Okay.
So the last thing I was going to do is load that file up. new scene, don't save. So let's file open scene. Desktop, so rigging face. Okay, so here's fuse face controls. Oh, I also need to load import rigging face. I need to load Dr. Fuse. Where'd he go? Let's go over here to the class, duplicate. Okay, so I'm going to go to home, blah, 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 face. Okay, so here is Dr. Fuse. I made this with Mixamo. It's probably in my downloads already. Let's go to another window, downloads. Dr. Fuse. So let's cut. Let's go to desktop. Rigging face. Let's paste. Okay. Cancel. Okay. New scenes. Okay, so I'm going to say open scene. All files. Okay, I didn't see it because it's an FBX because it was, intended for Unreal. Don't save. Okay, so here's Dr. Fuse. It's a Mixamo character. Again, if we click on Dr. Fuse there, it's got a blend shape node. In this case, it is the name of the blend shape is NC1_2, but it's got all these blend shapes. I think there's about 57. And I used to do this for my machinima class because I told them, facial animation was mandatory for machinima. And at the time we were using Mixamo characters, now they're using metahumans. I've been taught machinima for a few years. And so then I could say file import my desktop rigging face. And so here I'm going to import the controls. That's a separate file, import. And so here's the handle for that. Move this. Okay. And the same thing here. So if we go to BS Fuse Face Control. Okay, so I'm setting the attribute. So when you look at an object here in Mel, so this is the name of the control, blink control. That's going to be this. Okay. Oh, but I have to take out the, I've got to go to Windows. Really a pain in the butt. General editors, namespace editor. I've got to delete fuse face controls because it essentially, if you import something, it brings in the prefix of the file name. Okay, so let's delete that. Just merge with the root. Also the Mixamo rig, I'm going to delete that, merge with root. Okay. Now, if I select this, it says blink control. Okay. Down here, blink control dot translate X. That's this. Moving it in X. That's the translate X channel. blink control here, translate Y. So this just has, and all of these are two-dimensional, X and Y. Okay. So now if I were to, for the blink left and right, so essentially, so what I need to do is go to the face. Let's select the face. And okay, so I think the blend, that's the name of the blend, or that's the name of the blend shape node. So I'm going to grab this and rename this to face. Okay. Okay, so that is the face is the name of the blend shape node. Then blink R is the specific blend shape. All right, so we're doing blink control, translate X plus 1 times the blink control, translate Y times -1. And this is just a math equation. And so you're essentially just, moving it at X plus 1. That's allowing you to create these four-way controllers, essentially. And you can work the math out for yourself. I mean, you could take this, you could move it halfway, you could take that value and put that value into this formula and you can see how it works. Oh, I hope I didn't screw up. Yeah, I did. Geez. Undo. All right. So let's just show you just how the blink control works. So taking set attribute, the first thing I do, so I'm setting the attribute to 0 on the controller. There you go. And now if I just take this part of the script where I'm setting up the blink R. Okay, and if I run that, it looks like there was an error. Let's find out if it's working or not. Yeah, there's some error that was run, and maybe that was because what I do wrong here. I might have already had, yeah, I probably already had that expression in, I might have already had that expression in the interface. So this line here, it deletes all the expressions so that when you rerun the script, it should work. So let me try this again. Okay, variable missing face blink.r. Why is that wanting it to be a variable? Blink control, attribute not found, or variable missing. Case. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, this is what's wrong. Is this? Do you see how I found this? Blink right and blink left down here, and I'm not sure why. If what oversight or whatever. It's not right and left, it's R and L. So let's just type this, right? Except it needs an underscore. So believe me, I forgot all about that. Let's try it again. So I'm going to come back here to delete all the expressions. because if I made another one, would call it, would give it a name would append a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm going to come here one more time. Let's run these and no problem. So if I go to the blink controller, let's just move it down a little bit. So now you can see the lid's blinking. It's the reason it looks goofy is because there's also an eyelash model. And that has to be, that's also set in the script. But you can see the lids are working. And if you use that particular expression, you can do it left and right. Have like a 4-way control. You don't have to do that. Well, actually, I'm going to ask that you do at least one of those and write the expression.
Would make sense for a rep.
What's that?
It makes sense to like for like the.
Well, so this is a 4-way expression in that it can do up and down for the left eye and up and down for the right eye or both. If I move to one side or the other, then it isolates the eye, one of them. So I call that a 4-way expression. And the formula is there. It's in the, it's in the script that you can download. Yeah.
What about the expression editor? Is that useful?
It is, but it's a little weird.
Okay.
I'm not going to show you that right now because I've shown already a ton of stuff. So for next week, what I'm going to ask you to do is continue with the blend shapes. You should already have like the eyes done and the mouth. I'm also going to have you do body parts, and I'm going to let you decide where those are going to be. That way you're each doing something unique. You'll decide where you want to split it. And like I said, I'm going to have you make like maybe 2, like, you can have like 2 different pieces. So shirt 1, or like bear skin or shirt. And again, if you want, so let me open up the gecko, open scene. Where'd I put the gecko? Downloads. What time is it getting to be? Yeah, I've got to quit now. Gecko. Open. Don't save. Okay. So you could take the gecko. Let's just say if you select, these faces, then you could come in and then you could just say, go to modeling, mesh. I forget where all these commands are because I use my own little tool. Where's extrude? Here we go. Extrude. So you take the blue axis, boom, there's your shirt. I accidentally made it on the tail. But you don't have to do something much more than that, right? The whole idea is just you're putting separate pieces together and you're doing these blend shapes with a couple different body types. I haven't decided what those parameters are going to be yet because, like I say, it was mentioned in class, well, you're going to make us do, a face and then have us redo it on a character that we have to find. So it's like, well, no, how about if you just do it one time, but here's your model. And then I thought about, the whole custom creator thing, which I was going to do. And then, I saw it in the, just happened to be a presentation on that. Like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I did some pivoting. Now, I know this is a lot in one video. I'm going to edit part of it. So it should be being saved. Like once I quit, it should save. I'm going to create the assignment essentially what I'm going to do is take the blend shape assignment and I'm going to expand it so that it's due next week. And I'm going to add some more parameters to it. But I'm going to let you guys customize those parameters. So I don't want everybody doing the exact same rig. Okay. So I will update the blend shape assignment. And then you'll have this video with the controllers. And also, again, if we go to home, if we go to face, so here are the assets for the Mixamo character. There's the controller. Here's the Mel script that has the expressions. That's going to show you how to make these four-way expressions. It's just, we could work out the math on the board if you wanted to, but they just work. And if they don't work one way or the other, you just change the sign to negative or positive. You saw that in one of the videos, right? So the expressions are all here. This playlist with making the whoops, wrong. Two playlists, the 5-part playlist. This is the one that I had you guys watch that make sure you do your CBD before you start blend shapes, or maybe you want to wait till after, I don't know.
It makes it even more fun.
Okay, so here, shows you some shortcuts with the blend shapes with the component editor of making left and right sides. If you want to watch the resulting ones, like in 4 and 5, he's got his UI that he built, and he's creating these connections with the node editor. It's nothing different. You've already done this. So I don't want to have to point you to somebody else's playlist. I'm going to take some time and make some of these key connections in my own videos here. But for next week, I'm just going to have you establish, the blend shapes. And once those are done, also, you can maybe start with the rig. So we'll spend another week or two on the face, and then you'll have the rest of the character to rig. And I'll give you a couple other parameters on that. And then one other day, and this is going to be an in-class day, I also want to cover quadrupeds. So I'll have a model, and we'll do a simple rig for a quadruped. It's a little more complex with the IK system, but I think it'd be a good idea to show you quadrupeds. And if you could do all this and quadrupeds, and then if you made a couple more rigs, this would be enough to go out and get a job, right? Or at least, when you apply for a job, I can rig. So I know this class is a little hairy. It's a little intense, but my point of view is you're learning a lot about Maya, how it works. You're learning about rigging, and you can take some of this knowledge and apply it to other stuff in Maya. So, I think it's valuable. Me knowing this stuff and just spending time with it, it kept me employed. Every job, this stuff helped me get every other job I've ever had. Stuff I've been doing for years, and it's hardly changed in the 30 years I've been working with Maya, or 25, whatever it is. So it's 4 o'clock. I ended early.